Put the same premium lens into two eyes and you get two different outcomes. One forgets glasses ever existed. The other is fighting waxy vision or halos around every headlight and can't understand why. Same trifocal, same surgeon. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The difference is not the lens. I've done tens of thousands of these over 25 years, and a real share of that work has been quietly fixing premium lenses that disappointed someone the first time. So this is for fellow surgeons, fellow and residents, as well as the curious patients that wants to understand more about this life-changing surgery. Many surgeons overlook one of the most critical aspects of the entire procedure, lens centration. But let's address the elephant in the room right away. Does precise centration during surgery even matter? Some colleagues argue that it doesn't, pointing out that the lens can shift postoperatively due to capsular contraction or subtle fluid leakage. So why put so much effort into perfect placement on the table? Because while the lens can indeed move, research shows that these shifts are usually minimal. Your patient has the best chance of maintaining excellent long-term centration if you establish a perfect baseline right from the start. Furthermore, these post-operative shifts are highly dependent on your surgical technique. Perfectly centered capsulorhexis, a watertight, well-constructed entry wound, and a meticulous cortical cleanup are vital, since remaining cortical remnants are the primary drivers of capsular contraction. So where do we center the lens? Recent studies have shifted our thinking about lens centration from the pupil to the visual axis. The most reproducible way to find it on the table is the first Purkinje image when we ask the patient to look between the two coaxial lights of the surgical microscope. Why does this punish a diffractive optic specifically? Picture the rings are a bullseye. The lens hands the patient distance, intermediate and near all at once, but only when the eye looks straight through the center. Slide the center off axis and the eye starts looking through the transition zones. The energy split degrades, contrast falls, higher order aberrations climb, and that is what walks back into your chair as glare and halos or waxy vision. The magnitude is documented. Decentration hurts more than tilt, and an aspheric optics benefit is essentially gone past about 0.5 millimeter. Multifocals are the most sensitive of all, and 0.5 millimeter is your outer boundary, not your aim. Here's the trap. The capsular bag doesn't care about your visual axis. Left alone, it self-centers the lens on its own geometric center, typically temporal to where a diffractive optic needs to be. So a lens that looks beautiful in the back can be significantly decentered relative to fixation. Your goal should be to align the lens as closely as possible to the absolute center of the Purkinje reflex, aiming for a precision of 0.5 millimeter if you can. Don't simply target the inner ring, despite what many company reps might tell you. Remember that the inner ring on most multifocal lenses typically spans 1 to 1.2 millimeter. You must achieve significantly better accuracy than that to secure truly excellent patient outcomes. To verify that the patient is fully awake and actively fixating on the coaxial lights, turn them on and off. You can also ask them to switch their gaze between the upper and the lower lights to ensure they're paying close attention. In many cases, the lens resists proper centration and repeatedly springs back out of place. For these challenging situations, you can utilize a straightforward technique that I developed. Achieving proper centration is significantly easier when the target direction of movement is perpendicular to the haptics. By rotating the haptics 90 degrees away relative to the intended shift, you can easily guide the lens into the precise position and ensure it remains there permanently. Let me show you. Here we can see that I have already implanted the lens. This lens is an NV lens. I implanted it in the bag and I'm using a bimanual INA to remove the cortical material. I really like the bimanual INA because of its efficiency and safety in removing the cortex, especially sub-incisional cortex, and it also helps me center the lens. So here I'm hydrating the wounds, and I'm asking the patient to look straight between the two lights. These are the coaxial lights of the microscope. I'm not using the side lights. As you can see, I shut the side lights off. The patient looks at in between the two coaxial lights, and as you can see here, the centration is pretty good. It's important to note that it is not enough to put the center of fixation anywhere within the central ring. In this specific lens, the NV, the central ring is 1.2 millimeter, and it's definitely not good enough just to be within the ring. It needs to be within the center of the ring. Displacement of more than 0.3 millimeter from fixation could lead to photopsias, glare, and halos, and other types of visual distortions. This is another case. And as you can see, I hydrate the wound. It's very important to make sure that the wounds are not leaking, because if they are leaking, once you center the lens might shift back. Again, I'm turning the light on and off to make sure that the patient is fixated on the light. And from the side port, I gently move the lens, nudge the lens in the direction of the fixation. I aim for the very center of the ring. Again, it's very important to be centered within the ring and not only in the ring. As you can see, I spend a good deal of time just to make sure that the lens is centered and that the wounds are not leaking. This is the stage that many surgeons would just call it a day and say that's a perfect result. But you need to make sure that this lens is centered in order to prevent any problems post-operatively. And this is near perfect centration, as you can see. This is what we should strive for. So what do we do when the lens doesn't want to move towards the center? The technique that I use is I keep the irrigation in the eye with one hand, and with the other hand, I rotate the lens 90 degrees away from the point that I want to move the lens to. So you want the haptics of the lens to be perpendicular to the direction of the movement. This way, when you move the lens in the direction that you want, the haptics are not popping it back to a decentered position. And we continue with this meticulous process of rotating the lens and checking the centration. Sometimes the lens is not rotated exactly 90 degrees away from the direction. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. You need to keep doing it and keep checking it to make sure that the centration is good. Again, of course, this process cannot be done in a lens that has toricity. Again, it's very important to make sure that when you leave the eye, the wounds are tight, there is no leakage. You need to check the leakage multiple times to make sure that it's tight. I bring the eye to slightly higher than physiologic pressure to make sure that it's not leaking by hydrating both the main and the side ports. And here we got a much better centration. Different corneas, different offsets, same discipline every time. Find the reflex, orient the haptics, settle the optic on the visual axis, not the pupil. Of course, you cannot use my technique with a toric multifocal because you cannot rotate it freely. A toric multifocal asks the lens to do two things at once: sit on its meridian and stay centered on the visual axis. The rotational alignment is well known and not what I wanted to dwell on. But remember, it doesn't need to be perfectly aligned on the toric marks. It just needs to be parallel to them. So translational movements to center the lens are still okay as long as they remain parallel to the steep axis, because we don't want to lose any of the astigmatic correction benefits. Let's see this in action. And this is a toric multifocal lens, an NV lens. And here we need to align both the axis of the lens with the steep axis of the cornea, as well as aligning the center of the lens with the first Purkinje image, which is where the patient is fixating. And you can see that we have an almost perfect fixation here. This one is the VVT lens, and here you can briefly see the central ring that is not always visible, is only visible in a certain direction of light. That's what makes it more challenging to center it, and that's why perhaps many surgeons don't bother to center it perfectly. But I think for the VVT as well, it is very crucial for it to be centered properly in order to prevent blurry vision and glare and halos. Here we need to line the toric marks and the center of the VVT as well, which is a little bit of a challenge, but here, as you can see, we achieve near perfect centration. You can see the rings briefly right here. You see that? Yeah. Sometimes in order to see those rings, you need to move the eye slightly just to make the reflection so you can visualize them and make sure that the fixation is right at the center of the lens. And that's nearly perfect. Same target for centration. The astigmatic alignment gives you the meridian. Centration is still 1 on the visual axis. Everything so far happens in a few minutes on the table, but the lens has to hold that position for years, and that's decided by the capsulorhexis, the most underrated step in premium surgery. You want a round, continuous, and well-centered rhexis that overlaps the optic edge for the full 360 degrees. For most optics, 5 mm is the perfect sizing. The mechanics. As the capsule fibroses, it shrink wraps the optic. Symmetric overlap and the forces balance. The lens stays. Partial overlap, one edge exposed and the contraction is asymmetric. The lens tilts and decenters towards the side that's gripping. This is measured, not theoretical. Swept source OCT shows full 360 degrees overlap, yields less tilt, less decentration, better stability, with the lens migrating together with the rhexis as the back contracts. Yes, the lens moves after surgery, mostly in the first days, and that's the point. It doesn't move randomly. It moves the way your rhexis tells it to. A symmetric rhexis is how you cash in the centration you fought for. And when the bag itself is the problem, floppy, large, weak zonules, a capsular tension ring restores a round, symmetric bag and measurably cuts the centration and tilt in those long myopic eyes, as published in this paper. During a premium lens procedure, there are 2 additional critical factors that demand your deliberate attention. First, ensure the surgery is as atraumatic as possible. Employ the minimum ultrasound power required for cataract removal, and in cases with high nuclear density, liberally and repeatedly instill viscoelastic material to shield the corneal endothelium. Second, pay meticulous attention to wound construction. The clear corneal incision should be architecturally self-sealing, featuring an adequate tunnel length, square geometry, and a clean, untorn edges. Afterward, hydrate the wound and verify that it remains completely watertight at physiologic pressure. A leaking incision results in a soft eye overnight, creating a fluctuating anterior chamber during those initial post-operative hours, the exact moment an unstable lens can shift and cause a refractive drift. A perfectly sealed wound preserves intraocular pressure, stabilizes the chamber, and ensures the lens settles exactly where it was placed. First, for transparency, I do not hold any financial or advisory affiliations with any lens or medical device manufacturers. The recommendations presented here are rooted strictly in my own clinical practice and published scientific evidence. Ultimately, while a premium lens offers an exceptional foundation, it is merely one component of a successful surgery. The surgeon's technique is what translates that potential into a superb result. When a premium outcome falls short, we must carefully review the entire surgical sequence. Getting every link in this clinical chain right is what ultimately allows the lens to perform with the elegance and precision it was designed to deliver.